and has nothing political about it. Can I even say that the problem of our society is not spiritual?
Yes, sir.
Okay? The problems of our society are not spiritual. I mean, look, go to Japan. They are not spiritual than us. Go to Malaysia. They are not spiritual than us.
Yeah.
So the problems of our nation is not spiritual. And the problems of our nation, they are not political. But the problem of this nation is lack of quality leadership across board. Right. Regardless of the political color they wear. I have come to conclude based upon my studies, 80% of the politicians are not leaders in the first place. So that is a disaster for us. That is why the same problem that emerged under MPP are the same problems emerging under NDC. If there is something they could fix, they would have done it already. So the question is the church and national development. Having established this foundation, let's take off. Tell somebody we are ready to take off.
We are ready to take off.
Now, the primary goal of the church is threefold. Okay, the primary goal of the church is threefold. First of all, the church's responsibility is the propagation of the gospel. Number two, the church must seek the well-being of its members. We are talking about the primary goal of the church is the propagation of the gospel. They must also seek the well-being of its people. Thank you. And three, they are there to transform the lives of the people. They are there to transform the lives of the people. The church in history created agencies and various departments in meeting the needs of the people, from education, health, housing, care for the poor, and other social activities, including political needs. These were the things that the church did. But looking at the Greek concept of the church, in Greek, they call it the ecclesia, which is the called out ones, or the elect of the saints. But in the new Platonism of the Greek system, they called it the school of truth and the fellowship of adepts, the school of truth. So beyond the Greeks, they looked at the church that is a place of education. Under the Roman Stoicism, they looked at the church as primarily it was seen as a well-ordered community governed by laws. They saw the church as a well-ordered community, ordered, governed by laws. The Second Vatican Council, around the 16th century thereabout, speaks of the church as the people of God. Number two, they speak of the church as bearer of the message of salvation. And the Second Vatican Council, when they met, they consider the church as a mystical body of Christ. They also look at the church as the body of believers. So basically, let's define the church. The church is the body of, or a group of Christ-like believers gathering together in worship of the only divine creator, God, under the teaching of our Lord Jesus Christ, as a body geared towards the spreading of the gospel and the winning of others to join the church. So basically, the church is a group of people governed under the rules of Jesus Christ. Now, let's look at the word national development. National development basically affects several areas of the political life of a nation. It affects economic life, social life, educational, healthcare, agriculture, infrastructure, security, etc., etc. So when we talk of national development, what we mean is that the improvement of the lives of the people. National development is about the improvement of the lives of the people. Now, how can you measure the national development of a nation? Not by the economic growth, by the well-being of the people. If the people can afford the food they want, if they can afford the house they want, if they can afford the car they drive, if they can take care of their children, then it means that the people have developed, the nation has developed. That is national development. It means providing basic amenities like good education, infrastructure, good medical care, social services. Now, there is something they describe as developing nation. Even though Ghana struck oil and we produce oil, we are not yet a developed nation. Now, let me share with you the characteristics of a developing nation so that you will know that we are a developing nation and we are not yet a developed nation. Developing nations have weak infrastructures, poor roads, poor highways, at every area from one region to another. These are the characteristics of a developing nation. Number two, businesses are not developed and everybody is doing a buy and sell. These are the traits of developing nations. Lack of education. People finish JHS and they cannot even read and write. So these are the traits of a developing nation. Poverty at all levels. Poor health care. And this our age, our women, our wives, our sisters, majority go to the hospital going to deliver, and then the church will organize fasting and prayers. When in Japan, women go and deliver, nobody prays. When in America, women go and deliver, and they will announce it to their congregation, and nobody goes to pray. And they go and deliver and they return. Yet in our places and in our towns and villages, when our women are going to deliver, we have to go on our knees, depend on God and pray. Because the likelihood of they dying is very high. These are the traits of a developing nation. As a church, we should not pride ourselves of how far we have come as a country.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There is something more we can do. And sometimes I get very worried when I hear politicians comparing ourselves to Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, Benin and Togo. And I say, how dare them compare them, our nation, to Burkina Faso? Who told you Burkina Faso is our standard? Who told you that Burkina Faso is our standard? This is the where the cheer comes in. When America is there, when Japan is there, why do we compare ourselves with Burkina Faso? Yeah, that is where the cheer comes in. So, we need to understand the concept of development now. Now, there are two components when we talk of the concept of development. First component is a positive change in the well-being of the ordinary person. Okay? A positive change in the well-being of the ordinary person. That is when we talk of understanding the concept of development. A positive change. So if my life has not improved, then there is no development in my life. The second component is a long-term improvement in the standard of living. A long-term improvement. People would tell us all the economic jargons that there is money in the system, but if the money is not found in the pocket of the people and they cannot pay their school fees of their children, they have not improved. Their lives have not improved. Having said that, sometimes it is assumed that when the economy is doing very well and there is economic growth, it means that people have developed. But you see, there is one thing for the economy to grow, and another thing, when the people's lives have not improved, you cannot still describe it as national development, that the nation has developed. Now, in the days of the church history, the church continued to have positive influence on the development of civilization. And during those times in church history, they promoted learning and science throughout and sponsored many universities. Our president, in his public opening address, mentioned Cadbury was started by the church, Christians. And what again did you? Barclays Bank. Barclays Bank. What? Clark's, yes, Clark's shoe, yes. Right. I mean, I came to see Clark's and the Achimota Sanders. You know, during those days, there was a shoe called Achimota Sanders. You know, red, you will use Oxford blood, you know, Oxford and polish it and wear it, and it's like classic for you. You know, and universities during those days, in the 11th and 12th century, the church at that time was the Catholic Church, and in the 11th and 12th century, the church's priests were scientists, and they have written their names in gold. How do we know? They were part of people who were involved in the field of genetics, astronomy, meteorology, geomagnetism, solar, astrophysics. These were priests, pastors. Now let's come to the laity. The laity in the church during the 11th and the 12th century, they were involved. One, Henry Becquerel, discovered radioactivity. Lavoisier, the father of modern history, the father of modern chemistry, also was the father of modern chemistry. And Vesals was the founder of modern anatomy. Okay? These were lay people from the church. So the church in history made impact virtually in every field of human development. The church in history made impact in every human development. So now, what about the church of today? If the church in history made that impact, so what is the ground for the collaboration of the church and state in national development? What should be the foundation for which the church and the state should partner in national development? There are 6 emphases that the Vatican Council established in the 11th and the 12th century at that time. A, the Vatican Council established that the church serves as the body. Okay? The church serves as a body by 1, witnessing to the eternal values. 2, making God's love present. 3, healing the people. 4, proclaiming human dignity. This was under the Vatican in the 11th and 12th century when they had to partner the nations in national development. They said the church must be involved in these 4 areas. B, the Vatican established that the church helps people in their effort to better the world by opening to them the meaning of their existence and dignity. Basically, what Vatican said was that if the people will have a better life, show them the reason why they are on planet Earth, and improve their lives by giving them understanding that they will have dignity. C, Vatican established that by promoting family unity. And D, that they must consolidate human unity. E, they must inject faith and charity in daily life to help society. And F, Vatican established that the church also must better civil society and must make civil society better. When we talk of civil society, Bar Association is a Ghana Bar Association is a civil society. GPCC is a civil society. Other NGO bodies are civil society. And Vatican believed that the role of the church must improve the lives of civil society. We are talking about a church in the 11th and the 12th century. So what about the church of today? Under Vatican II, the church reconsidered her role in national politics. And at that time, they believed that it was a dirty thing, therefore the church should not get involved in national politics. But they redefined their role and their involvement in national politics from opposition and neglect to a spiritual involvement. So they changed their philosophy. And I'm glad that in the opening remarks of our president, he mentioned that we must empower and encourage our people to get involved in the politics of today. Get them to go into politics. Get them to be able to become members of parliament. This is what Vatican established in the 11th and the 12th century. So they said, when that is done, then it will guarantee the good of its members. So when our people are not involved, then there is something wrong. So even though the church is a spiritual body, she works for the salvation on earth, which means that they believe that the church is a spiritual body, but they work for the salvation of the people on earth. The people are on earth, and therefore they must have a better life. Hence, they must be involved in the politics of the day. The church must not be partisan, but the church should be involved in the political life of the people. Many religious duties and political actions are the same. For example, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, visiting those in prison, giving a drink to the thirsty are both religious duties and at the same time political duties. It is the job of the state to house the homeless. It is the job of the state to take care of the people who are insane and walking on the streets. But the church also have that social responsibility. So you see, they are para, they go hand in hand. Question: what are the root causes and why the church is not the way it should be? Why? And I want to take you through that. Why the church is not the way it should. Number one, the church, because of its refusal or failure of the church to take part in national politics and decision making. The church has refused over the years. So if today 5 million people defecate publicly, if today people choke our gutters, if today we are indisciplined and we are called an indisciplined society, is because the church was so much involved in spirit, forgetting that the people are on planet Earth here and that they must have a better life after they get born again. The church has become a sleeping giant. Number two, lack of integrity and compromising of the truth of the gospel of Christ, where we do not teach the truth. The third reason why the church is the way it is now, lack of adequate education on the church leadership. It is of recent that church leaders are now developing and improving themselves. And may I encourage you, wherever you find yourself, add value to your life. Take yourself to the next level. So, church education for church leadership is very important. Number four, the building of tradition within the church. The church sometimes is too much rooted in tradition that it has refused to become relevant to the challenges of the day. Number five, lack of visionary leadership within the church. We have churches who have no vision beyond their leader, beyond where they find themselves. Where are you taking your church to in the next 5 years from now? Where are you taking your church? I have developed, by the grace of God, a sermon outline where I know the messages I'm going to preach between now and December. And I have sermon outline for 2015. Because if we want to shape the people, we must intentionally and deliberately craft a message to move them to the desired direction. That is the job of the pulpit. Somebody will ask the question, where does the Spirit come in? Well, the Spirit was in me when I was doing the planning. But in between, if there is any emergency and any promptings of the Spirit, I respond to that. In Proverbs 16:3, he said, the plans of a man is in the heart of a man, but it is the Lord that establishes that. Then in verse 3, he said, commit your plans to the Lord, and he will cause you to succeed. So when you don't plan and you pray, nothing will happen. You must plan and pray and pray and plan. Commit your plans to the Lord. That is prayer. So if you have nothing